Welcome to this episode of the Elite Advisor Blueprint Podcast with your host, Brad Johnson. Brad's the VP of Advisor Development at Advisors Excel, the largest independent insurance brokerage company in the U.S. He's also a regular contributor to Investment News, The Wall Street Journal, and other industry publications.
Thanks for joining. My name is Brad Johnson, and I'm the VP of Advisor Development at Advisors Excel. In each episode of the Elite Advisor Blueprint Podcast, it's my goal to distill the best ideas and advice from top thought leaders and apply it to the world of independent financial advising.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Elite Advisor Blueprint Podcast. I have my buddy and special guest, Hal Elrod, here with us today. Welcome to the show, Hal.
Brad, it is a pleasure. I told you, it's my first interview I've done in like a year and a half or a year, long time.
Well, I'm honored, man. In fact, this interview was actually supposed to happen. I checked my calendar before I hopped in here today, November 15th, 2016.
Wow.
And knowing a little bit of your personal story, I wouldn't normally open a conversation like this, but following from afar, watching your Miracle Morning community, but when you were kind of rocked with a diagnosis of cancer just over a year ago, and seeing, most importantly, the mindset that you approached it with, I want to open there, and I just want to ask you what have you taken from that experience, and maybe I guess give us a little bit of color commentary because not everybody's going to be familiar with this story.
Yeah. So about a year ago, just a little less than a year ago, right before Halloween, I woke up in the middle of the night and just gasping for air. And kind of like when you wake up and you're having a nightmare that maybe you're drowning or something, and you wake up and you're, you can't breathe. But I wasn't having a nightmare. I just couldn't breathe. And this went on for a couple of days, and it wasn't getting better. It got worse. And my wife said, go to the urgent care and get checked out. Went to urgent care. They did an X-ray of my chest, and he said, I think it's pneumonia. I'm going to put you on some antibiotics. But he said, I'm not sure. So in a few days, if you're not better, go see your regular doctor. So a few days later, wasn't any better. I'm literally sleeping propped up on pillows, and I can't sleep. I can't breathe. It was terrible. And so then I ended up going to my doctor, and he calls the next day and says, I want you to come in. And I'm going, oh God, that's like a bad news thing. If you have to come in, they can't tell you over the phone. What could this possibly? And for me, I've lived an anti-cancer lifestyle for like 10 years. I mean, I watched a documentary 10 years ago, Healing Cancer from the Inside Out, about how to cure cancer holistically and naturally. And so I just said, I'm going to start just living that way now so that I don't ever get cancer. So I came in and he said, there's definitely something going on. And he said, you might have, it could be some sort of virus or some sort of infection, but he said it might be cancer. And you showed the signs of like a lymphoma you've got these enlarged lymph nodes in your chest that are causing your lung to collapse and overfill with fluid. And I mean, I'm going, there's no way, it can't be cancer. It's got to be some freaky virus, And I went out in the car. I called my wife. She was actually on a trip I was supposed to be on, but I couldn't go on because I couldn't breathe. I canceled it, but sent my family to go visit my grandma because my grandma was looking forward to seeing my my kids and everything. And I called my wife in the car and told her, and I personally accept all things I can't change. When I was 20 years old, I was, we can get in more into this if we need to later, but I was hit head on by a drunk driver. I died for 6 minutes. I broke 11 bones. Doctors said I would never walk again. So at age 20, having that adversity, the lessons I learned from it was, well, if you can't change a circumstance, there's no value in feeling bad about it, in feeling sorry for yourself, in being a victim, in wishing that reality were any different than it is. If you can't change it, you can't change it. And most people suffer because they wish they could change it. And so I learned that early on. So when I received the diagnosis from the doctor, I thought, if it's cancer, okay, I won't have emotional pain over that. I'll just figure out how to work through it as proactively as I can. So I was at peace with it as soon as I heard it. But calling my wife and telling her that I might have cancer was not as easy. Wasn't as easy for me to tell her as it was for me to completely accept it. And so I called her. I started crying, and she's crying, and I said, "Sweetie, it's probably not cancer, but if it is, don't worry. If it is, I'm meant to go through it. I'm meant to beat it. I'm meant to write another book about it and help people that are suffering from it as well, right?" And so long story short, I was diagnosed with a very rare, very aggressive form of cancer. I went in for a second opinion into a major hospital, and they found out not only were my lungs failing, my kidneys were failing, and my heart was surrounded by a sac of fluid that was compressing my heart. And if it was about 1/4 of an inch thick or 1/8 of an inch thick, if it got to be 1/4 of an inch thick or any more, they said my heart would stop beating and I would die, or I would go into cardiac arrest. And so they literally, I said, well, hey, I said, okay, I'm not I'm a natural guy. I said, I want to cure this cancer holistically. What can you do to support me in that? And my doctor, the oncologist, said, you'll be dead in a week if you try to cure this holistically. And I didn't like that answer because I thought it was kind of a fear tactic, and I said, well, all right, well, we're going to go home and sleep on this. And we went home and did some research on the kind of cancer that I had. And the doctor wasn't exaggerating. It literally is, this is a cancer where it's extraordinarily fast acting. I mean, I went from healthy to lung collapsing, kidney failing, heart, And so basically me, my wife, we looked and we went, chemo is literally, it's a necessary evil in this particular case. This isn't a cancer where you can make gradual lifestyle changes, which I didn't even know what I would change at that point. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I ended up, I went through chemo. Thankfully, it saved my life. I mean, within a matter of days, my lung, I could breathe again. My kidneys were it fixed all the things that were causing the problems, and it started to minimize the cancer. And the last year of my life has been the hardest year of my life by far. But I am very, very grateful to say that I, a few weeks ago, went and got a test, and they don't find any cancer. And so the chemotherapy combined with all sorts of natural, holistic, outside the box, weird things that most people would never even think to do. The combination of the best of kind of East and West, if you will. It worked, and I'm cancer free. And I don't look at this as the end of the road. It's a lifelong journey of remaining cancer free. A lot of people, their cancer, once you've had it once, it can come back much, much easier. And so I'm very aware of that and utilizing not only the physical practices and medicines and supplements and stuff, but just there's so much mental, like the Miracle Morning, which we'll talk about today, the affirmations and that mind-body connection. Ever since my car accident, I've really believed in the power, and I've seen the power of how our mind influences our biology in a really powerful way. So utilizing every tool I've got to keep healthy and around for my kids.
If there was one piece of advice you were going to share with someone that either just got diagnosed with cancer or had a family member diagnosed with cancer, what would it be?
The simplest is to give you a resource, because here's the thing. If you go to your doctor, like I went to my doctor, and I've asked my doctor, by the way, is one of the best oncologists in the world. I mean, he literally flies around every month. He's somewhere in the world speaking to hundreds of oncologists, telling them the latest because the hospital that I'm at, or that I went to in Houston, MD Anderson, they're like the cutting edge. They invented a lot of the cancer protocols that are being used now. And he's at the cutting edge of the leukemia department. So he heads it up. And but when I asked him about, like I said, what part does nutrition play in healing my body of cancer? And he says, that doesn't really matter. Just do the chemo. And I even know, I'm like, no, it matters. It definitely matters, right? But doctors, no offense. And I wouldn't be alive without my doctor. So make sure that's in context. But they typically, most of them, it seems, my experience has been, they only know what they read in their textbook to get their degree and practice medicine. Now, some continue their education, I'm sure, and keep, I think a lot of them, do what they need to do to get a paycheck and help people know with their current frame of knowledge, right? And so if you ask your doctor about what you can do to detoxify your body, because chemotoxicity kills arguably as many people as cancer. Now, again, I'm not going on record quoting that, but I mean, it's right. It's up there. Mm-hmm. And so I asked my doctor, what could I do to detox from the chemo? And he said, we'll give you a flush every time. And I'm like, so here's the point. Go to a website, chrisbeatcancer.com, CHRIS, chrisbeatcancer.com. Opt in for all of his free resources and use those either use just those if you want to go all natural, or if you do what I did, which is combine the best of both. do the treatment that they're going to give you at the hospital, but you've got to support your immune system with natural holistic things. And Chris gives you all of that. He beat cancer naturally. I don't know, like 7 years ago or longer. He's been in remission, never came back. And he had like stage 3 colon cancer where it was bad. And the doctor said, if you don't do chemo, you're going to die. He decided not to do chemo. He lived through it. So I believe that combining the best of both is a great approach for people. And that can give you, listen to both. Do everything your doctor says and do everything that Chris beat cancer, who it's not his own, just his opinion. He's interviewed like the top natural holistic doctors in the world for the last, however many years, and bringing the best of that knowledge and making it concise for anybody that's going through cancer.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
And reading your book, we're going to get into Miracle Morning, but I just think there's so much, like, it was inspiring, man. Like, and we have mutual friends, and this is not, I can't say this strongly enough. What you see on screen, Hal Elrod, it's not an act, it's you, right? And some people are like, how can he always have that much energy? How can he stay that positive, right? And I, guys like John Ruhlin that like used to room with you in the Cutco days, right? So is it, going back to mindset, because obviously this is a podcast for financial advisors and you've been in sales, kind of grew up in sales, really, there's a lot of negative emotions when, that sale says no, and you had the ultimate negative emotion, which was you have cancer. What are the steps you went through? Was it just because I know you've done a lot of work on yourself. So, but there's some people that haven't gone through those steps mentally like you did with the car wreck. Like if somebody was working through, I just had really bad news. How can I step back and look at this with the positive mindset and get the best out of it? Are there any tips or tricks that you have along those lines?
Yeah, the greatest lesson that I learned from that car accident when I was 20, which to this day it's one of the single. This is what I'm going to share with you. This is one of the single most important lessons, principles, philosophies, mindsets to I believe to be happy and everything else that we want in life. And it's accepting all things that we can't change. And I guess I can attribute it to when I was in sales. I learned something called the 5-minute rule from my sales manager in my initial training. So like day 2 of training, he said, hey, look, in sales, just like in life, there's going to be disappointment. There's going to be failure. You're going to try something. It's not going to work. You're going to have customers cancel their orders that you, in your mind, you've already spent the money, and then all of a sudden you go, no, right? We've all been there. And he said, I'm going to teach you a tool. It's called the 5-minute rule. And it states it's okay to be negative when things go wrong, but not for more than 5 minutes. And he taught us to literally set our timer on our phone for 5 minutes. And you get 5 minutes to bitch, moan, complain, cry, vent, punch walls, like whatever you got to do, right? Like just feel it. But he said after 5 minutes, when that timer goes off, you say 3 very powerful words to yourself. Can't change it. Can't change it. And what that is, it's a reminder, okay, I can't go back, unless I'm Marty McFly with the DeLorean, I can't go back in time, whether it was 5 minutes or 5 years or 5 decades, we can't go back in time and change the past. And what I later learned to really strengthen this lesson is that when I read the book, The Power of Now, is that every negative emotion that we have ever felt in our lives or could ever feel is not a result of the thing we're focused on that we think is causing our negative emotion, such as the canceled order or the cancer or the car accident or, the breakup or losing a loved one, whatever. That's not what causes the emotional pain. It's our level of resistance to the reality. So to the degree that we resist our reality is the degree that we create emotional pain for ourselves. So in a very practical way, right? An example, something bad happens and you go, no, come on. I wanted that so bad. So I'm resisting reality. I didn't get it, but I want it. It's not fair. Or we lose a loved one. Now, I would never make light of that, right? But our emotional pain is only laid at rest when we accept whatever happened as it is and we make peace with it. And for some people, they never do that, right? There are people, think about this. Many of us are suffering over things from our childhood, right? like, oh, well, my father did this or my mother did this, or, and it's like, by all means, no one deserves to have bad things happen to them, but it's reality. And to suffer today over something that happened 5 minutes ago or when you were a child, that is self-created emotional pain because we're still resisting our reality from way back when. We're still wishing it were different. So for me, when the car accident happened, at first I woke up from a coma 6 days later. So this was, I was 20 years old, driving home from a sales meeting, hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour, spun off the drunk driver. The car behind me broadsided my door at 70 miles an hour. I broke 11 bones. I died for 6 minutes, woke up 6 days later from a coma, and the doctor said, you'll probably never walk again, and you have permanent brain damage. I had like no short-term memory. And hearing you're never going to walk again at any age is tough, right? But at 20, right, your emotional intelligence is it's pretty limited. Your life experience is limited. But I had the 5-minute rule, and I had this philosophy that I'm sharing. And so it only took literally a few days, and I went, okay, I can't change that I was in a car accident. I can't change that my bones are broken. I may not be able to have, I may never walk again. The doctors may be right. And so I thought, but since I can't change that, I'm going to be the happiest I could possibly be as I go through the rest of my life. I'm going to be the most grateful I could ever be. And so the doctors called my parents in after I was out of my coma for a week. And they said, we're concerned with Hal. We believe he is in denial. They said, every time we interact with Hal, he's always smiling and laughing and joking. And they said, that's not normal for anyone, let alone a 20-year-old that's being told they're probably never going to walk again. His body is scarred. It's broken. But we've seen this where his reality is so painful he can't accept it, so he's checked out and he's just pretending everything's okay. And one day they said, he has to face it, and it's going to come crashing down, and it could result in him turning to alcohol or drugs or suicide or something to cope, right? So they said, we want you to talk to him and find out how he's really feeling. So my dad comes in and he sits down, and I'm sitting there, and you got to imagine me in my hospital bed, like my eye was shattered. I mean, this is all made of metal. I've got a bandage over my eye. My ear was almost completely severed. It's bandaged on. My head is shaved because it had been cut open. They had to stitch it up, right? My arm's broken. My elbow's broken. My leg's broken. My pelvis is broken. I'm 2 weeks out of the accident, removed from the accident, and I'm watching Oprah, literally. My dad comes in, and he said, can I talk to you? And I was like, Dad, I'm watching Oprah, and I look over, and I could tell his eyes are like he had been crying or he's about to cry, and I turn it off, and I think he has really bad news for me. I'm going, oh gosh, Dad, you just met with the doctor. What's going on? And he told me their concerns. He said, Hal, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be depressed. He goes, it's okay to be angry. God knows your mom and I want to strangle that drunk driver. We're sad, angry, and depressed. I can only imagine what you're going through. Talk about it. How are you feeling, son? It's okay. Let's talk about it. And again, I could tell he was so concerned. So I paused and I thought, am I sad? Am I angry? Am I depressed? Am I covering something up that I'm not realizing? And I just shook it off and I looked, I said, Dad, I thought you knew me better than that. And he said, what do you mean? I said, remember, I live by the 5-minute rule. It's okay to be negative for 5 minutes. But after 5 minutes, I go, it's been 2 weeks since the accident. My 5 minutes are up. And I said, and he goes, Hal, he goes, I know your 5-minute rule, but that was for no sales and canceled appointments. He goes, this is a bigger deal. I said, but Dad, the reality of the philosophy, the mindset is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the level of adversity. Emotional pain is self-created whether you die in a car accident or you're in traffic. Doesn't matter. It's resisting reality. I said, I've decided, Dad, if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, I'll be the happiest, most grateful person you've ever seen in a wheelchair because I'm in a wheelchair either way. So I can either be miserable in a wheelchair and blame the drunk driver and be angry that it happened, or I can just roll around being the happy, genuinely happy. I said, that's the decision that I've made. I said, I'm not putting on a front. I'm not in denial. I'm choosing that no matter what happens to me in life, I'm going to make the best of it, period. And I'm going to be happy even in the midst of the most difficult circumstances of my life. And because of that, when the cancer happened, I instantly, it took no effort to, as soon as the words were, you could have cancer, I'm like, oh, okay, can't change it. If I have cancer, I'll accept it. I'll deal with it. I'll move through it. I'll learn from it. And I'll help other people, as much as I can as a result. And So that, that's been the greatest lesson, that 5-minute rule, that can't change it philosophy. And it doesn't even take 5 minutes after you practice it for a while, because eventually, like you set your timer and you cuss for 30 seconds and then you look at your timer and you go, all right, I got 4.5 more minutes. I don't really need to sit here and wallow in this anymore. I'm just going to work on a solution. You know what I mean? So
you become very efficient with the 5-minute rule. It's like,
exactly. It's like the 5-second rule now. It's like, son of a, okay, what now? What can I do?
Dude, thanks for sharing that. That's an amazing framework. It's stoic, really, is what it reminds me of. It. Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic. I think you're familiar with.
Sure, I know Ryan.
I think he's in Austin with you. So
yeah.
But he had a passage in there that talked about prisoners of war, and these are guys that have been tortured for years. And he's like, there was one guy that made it through. I can't think of his name right now, but he's like, the one thing they couldn't control was my mind. It wasn't Viktor Frankl. It was Vietnam.
Okay.
But yeah, the same concept. The one thing you've got control of is your mind. You can't control that drunk driver rolling down the highway at 70 miles an hour. So
yeah, and also I think that for me, I look at the way that we here. To me, this is one of the most important things for us to all consider, is that the way that we live our lives gives, and I didn't invent this part of it, right? But it gives other people permission to do the same. And so I think that's a responsibility and a power that we cannot take lightly. Like for me, it's my kids, right? It's like I have to live my life in the way I want them to live my life, or their lives, right? And I want to teach them through my example how to respond to adversity. So if I'm stressed out and freaked out and pissed off and yelling and or whatever, well, then that's what I'm teaching them, how to respond to the challenges in their life. I'd rather them go, wow, no matter what my dad goes through, right? He's genuinely accepting of the things he can't change and grateful for everything else, and then proactive in creating everything that he wants. And by the way, that's the framework. If we'll wrap up the can't change it with, it's ABC: accept everything you can't change, be grateful for everything else, and C, create consistent progress towards everything that you want, right? And that's it. Those, to me, that's the holy trifecta of how to live life to the fullest.
That's awesome. All right, let's transition.
All right.
Because I have you to blame for waking up at 4:45 a.m.
Nice.
I just want to give a little bit of background, because your book, The Miracle Morning, it has changed my life, and I don't say that lightly. And I was even trying to, as I was preparing for today's conversation, I was trying to remember where I found out about. It was like this underground entrepreneur circle that this book was rolling through, right?
Nice.
And so I want to get to the story of how the book came to be. There's all kinds of lessons wrapped in there, but I just want to say thank you, because about fairly consistently the last 2 years, there have definitely been days that I've missed, but
me too. It's okay.
Okay, good. The guy that wrote it misses.
Yeah.
I'm all right. So, but I can say there's a dramatic difference between days where I do my version of the Miracle Morning versus days that I don't. And the ones that I do, it's massively, it's just led to a massive increase in productivity, my mood, how I carry out throughout the day. So thank you. I just want to throw that in there before we dig into what the Miracle Morning is.
No, you're welcome. And it means a lot, because it's become my life's work in a way that I never imagined it would, Yeah. So I just thought it was a book.
How did it come to be? Let's start there.
Yeah. So this is the first part of it. Everyone listening to this will relate to as a financial advisor. So back in 2008, you might remember the economy hit a little bit of a rough patch. Well, in 2006, I hit Hall of Fame with Cutco, right? That's where I was in sales. And I hit Hall of Fame. I bought my first brand new house, and I wanted to move on to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a coach, and I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to be an author. That was like the three things I wanted to do. So I wrote my first book called Taking Life Head On, which was about the head-on collision with the drunk driver and the lessons from that. I launched my coaching business and coaching salespeople primarily. And then I launched my speaking career, and would just, I got like actually, here's a funny part too. My first paid speech ever was for Countrywide Home Loans, which is no longer in business.
What year was that?
$500, 2006 or 7, I think. Maybe 5 even, yeah.
You might have been one of their last speakers.
I was responsible for the housing crash, which is, I apologize to all the realtors and everybody else. But no, so when the economy crashed, right before the economy crashed, life was great. I was in the best shape of my life. I was, I was in the best shape of my life. I was happy. I was, building my business. I'd gotten it almost to a 6-figure business in the first, year and a half, I think. And when the economy crashed, I lost over half my coaching clients just because they were same thing. They were all, it's like, hey, Hal, we don't have any money, So, yeah. And so lost my coaching clients. Wasn't getting booked to speak. The book wasn't really making me any money anyway. And so I couldn't pay the mortgage. I lost my house, canceled my gym membership, tripled my body fat percentage, like got in the worst shape went from the best shape of my life to the worst shape of my life in 6 months. And as a result, the happy-go-lucky me got really depressed. For the first time ever, I got deeply, deeply depressed. And now part of that, and I've only shared this a few times in interviews because I didn't realize it until much later, but I quit taking Adderall around that time. I'd been taking Adderall for a few years, and I didn't know it was bad. And then my dad sent me some articles. He's like, Hal, you might want to rethink this. And I was like, oh, I didn't know, so I stopped taking it and I quit cold turkey. And that wasn't the best way to do it. But I think that was part of why I got depressed simultaneously when I was losing everything. Like it was the perfect storm. And, but when you're in that, if you've ever been depressed, it's like you can't think straight. You can't analyze, you can't evaluate. It's just really difficult. And so this 6-month downward spiral where everything went kind of off the rails. I lost my house. And finally, after 6 months, my wife, a series of events led me to go search what do the world's most successful people do every day that I don't do? Like, that's what I was trying to figure out. Okay, because if I do what they do every day and I adopt their routines, their rituals, their habits, it's only a matter of time before I should start to see the results that they would see. And I kept coming across morning routines, morning rituals, but I wasn't a morning person. At least I didn't consider myself. Like, I think the majority of society, I'm not a morning person, because, and by the way, I think my theory on that is when we leave the house at 18, we lose the people that were waking us up in the morning. And we love it. We're like, I don't have to wake up early anymore. I can sleep in as late as I want. And then for most people, it's kind of like a downward spiral into mediocrity, either in some way, in financially, or maybe their business is good, but like their health, their physical fitness, So for me, I wasn't a morning person, but I kept coming across article after article after article, and now it's much more prevalent. Back then, you didn't see as many articles, but I went, you know what? I got to wake up an hour earlier. I got to give this a try. And then I wanted it to be the ultimate morning ritual. I thought, okay, if I'm going to wake up early, I want, what's the most effective thing that I could do during the first hour of my day? So I continue searching online and just Googling, and I come across meditation. I come across visualization. I come across exercise. I come across reading. I come across journaling. I come across affirmations. And I'm seeing all these, from, world-class athletes to celebrities to CEOs, and they swear by any one of those 6 practices that I just rattled off. But none of them are better than the other. It just depends on who you ask. Will Smith said to Ellen, the reason I'm the highest paid or one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood is because I've done affirmations since I was 15. And now my affirmations became my reality after I programmed my subconscious mind enough. So I'm like, well, I got to do affirmations. And then Jim Carrey, of course, is famous for his, visualizing the $10 million payday and writing a check to himself. And then it became a reality. And I'm going, well, that's a pretty compelling, and on and on and on. And then the epiphany, as I'm sitting there going, which one should I do? The epiphany was, what if I did all of these? What if I woke up tomorrow morning and did the 6 most powerful, proven personal development practices in history? All 6 of them. Woke up the next morning, did all 6, felt amazing, even though I was terrible at all of them. I didn't know how to meditate. I was learning it all on the fly. But you fast forward, now fast forward 2 months. I that first day I went, if I do this every day, it's only a matter of time before my life turns around. And I was thinking 6 to 12 months. I was thinking like the compound effect, slowly but surely. But it happened faster than I ever thought possible. Less than 2 months later, I had more than doubled my income. I went from being in the worst shape of my life physically, having never been a runner, to deciding to run a 52-mile ultra marathon, which I committed like 6 months later, or I completed. And my depression was gone on like day 2. And because my life changed so fast, I started calling it my miracle morning. It felt like a miracle, but it wasn't a book idea. It wasn't anything I was going to tell anyone about. My coaching client, one of the few that I had left, at that point, I guess I had built them back up, but she said, Hal, do you do a morning ritual? And I'm like, I go, oh my gosh, I just started doing this thing. I'm calling it my Miracle Morning. I tell her about it. 2 weeks later, we get on the phone and I said, Katie, did you wake up an hour earlier like you committed to? She goes, not exactly. I did 1 hour earlier for the first week. I go, okay. She says, you're right. It was so good that I woke up 2 hours earlier for the last week, and that's what I'm going to stick with. I wanted more of it. And she said, I've had the best 2 weeks in my entire sales career. I read 2 self-help books. I took your lead. I started running again. And that was when the light bulb went off. And I went, wait, if this changed my life faster than ever thought possible, I wasn't a morning person. It changed Katie's life, and she wasn't a morning person. This could change the world. This could change anybody's life. And I started working on the book, and it took 3 years to write the book. Now you fast forward, that was 9 years ago, something like that. Now it's being practiced. The Miracle Morning is now practiced by over 500,000 people in over 70 countries. The book's been translated into 27 languages. Number 1 book in Korea. This is some crazy, I'm baffled by the whole thing.
Lives in Asia. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. My buddy, a friend of mine that I used to sell Cutco with sent me all these pictures. He was in a bookstore he's Korean, and he was visiting his family, and there's the aisle caps for the Korean version of the Miracle Morning, and it's number 1 in India. It was crazy. So, and now it's, people like Robert Kiyosaki practice it people that I've looked up to that then got a hold of my book somehow. Like Robert Kiyosaki swears by the lifesavers. He says he does them every single day. And people will text me or email me all the time. Hey, I'm in South Africa. Robert Kiyosaki's the keynote speaker. And he just talked for 5 minutes about how the Miracle Morning has changed his life. And I'm like, that's crazy, So anyway, yeah. So that's the Miracle Morning in a nutshell.
For the listeners, just to tie it all together, lifesavers, that's your acronym to lay all those out, correct?
Yeah. So real quick. So the savers is the acronym, and it was meditation became journaling. So this my wife's idea. I was writing the book and I was frustrated one day, and she goes, what's wrong? I said, well, I've got these 6 practices, but there's no rhyme or reason. Robert Kiyosaki's got the cash flow quadrant. It's cute. It fits together. Stephen Covey's got the 7 habits. It's like, I need some sort of framework. And she goes, why don't you get a thesaurus and see if any of the words of those practices are interchangeable for other words and put it into an acronym. So I owe this to my brilliant wife, but S is for silence. That's your meditation or your prayer or both. A is for affirmations, V for visualization, E for exercise, R for reading, and the final S, which was journaling, is now scribing. And Robert Kiyosaki, he interviewed me on his show, and he said it best. He goes, Hal, before the Miracle Morning, every successful person on the planet swore by at least one of the savers. He goes, but I've never heard of anyone that did 3 of them, let alone all 6 of them. And he said that, but he goes, but all 6 are life changing. So he goes, I now do all 6 every day, and I have the Miracle Morning, to thank for that.
And I'm going to drill this home because I swear, I'm on my soapbox every episode. The brilliance of it is the fact that you made it easy, right? Easy to remember. This nice little acronym that nobody's going to forget. We're on that with our clients a lot, that you've got to take financial services and make it a simple framework that people understand, that gives them comfort, right? And so I love that you went back and you're like, how can I fit this into an easy to remember framework so that people can actually take it and run with it, and they don't need your book with them to be able to remember what to do.
Yeah, you're right. And people tell me that all the time, that they go because they, once you've done the savers for a few days, you memorize them pretty quickly, and then people always tell me that in their head, they go S, they literally, that's how they do it. They just go, okay, now it's time for affirmations. Now it's time for visualization. Now it's time to, and you can totally customize the order. People will do their exercise first or last or, whatever. But yeah, I think that, because that's the thing is I was really insecure writing the book, going, well, I didn't invent any of this, right? Like I didn't invent waking up early. I didn't invent any of the practices. But I just made it sexy, simple, etc. And when I think that, to your point about the power of that simplicity in the acronym, is if you take any one of the savers, any one of them, people will try to implement as a habit. Like, oh, I've tried to implement meditation before. I've tried to implement, reading consistently or journaling or whatever. So it's like, if you take all 6 of them, that you're like, oh, and you separate them, you're like, well, how could there's no way I could find time how am I going to find time to meditate and to exercise and to read and to do journaling right there? There's no way. But because it's all done at the same time in as little as, 6 minutes. I mean, there's a whole chapter in the book to do a 6-minute version or a 30-minute version, or most people do, I think, 60 minutes, but you can do, it's totally customizable, so doing them all at once makes it like, oh, I can wrap my head around these 6 things being all done in a quick little cute, easy routine versus having to fit all 6 of them in at different parts of the day,
Mm-hmm. And the fact done daily, right? So say you only have 5 to 10 minutes to read. Well, you're knocking out 8 to 10 pages, if not more, every single morning. You're cranking through some books pretty quick if you're doing that.
Yeah, 10 pages a day is like a book and a half a month. You're a different person,
All right. So I'm just reading the listeners and the viewers' minds right now. Let's start with this.
That psychic ability, bro. That's
amazing. At this point, I've really been able to do it. So,
awesome.
What time do you wake up each morning?
So it used to be 3:30 a.m. for like the last 7, 8, 9 years. And then once I got cancer, I decided I would throw an extra hour of sleep in. So now I'm up. Now my alarm goes off at 4:30. And I will sometimes do the first part of Miracle Morning. Like I'll actually do I'll sometimes roll over and I'll get my phone and do I'll read my affirmations while I'm laying there, which is a new thing. I used to like jump out of bed right away. And so I'm kind of experimenting, with things, but yeah, it's definitely, I used to sleep 5.5 to 6 hours. Now I get 7 hours every night. That's one of my post-cancer, protocols is a little more rest. Yeah, so I get up at between 4:30 and 5 at the latest.
Okay, so a lot of people would be like, that sounds crazy, right? But what's interesting is going back to the framework, the mindset that you have with it, it's not, 4:30 is not early. It's only early if you don't get your required sleep.
Sure.
Right?
If you're binging on Netflix till midnight, it's early.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the things, one of my friends calls it, it's like domino effect goals. And it's like, if you've got this solid morning routine, you're not going to be out with your buddies till 2 a.m. drinking beers. If part of your routine is I'm working out at part of my morning routine is 4:30 or 5 a.m. workout routine. And hopefully you've got some accountability partners tied in there too. But that's what I found is a lot of people say I'm not a morning person. It's because they don't actually rewind the clock to the previous night and make sure they're getting in the hours needed.
Yeah. So, and all that is
I would love your mindset there because you've helped hundreds of thousands of people implement this. So do you have some tips or tricks on how do you make sure you're getting the required rest the night before so you can be a morning person?
Yeah, so the first thing that I'll say on that is that I'm not a morning person is a limiting belief, right? And I call that out in the book. And it's a belief, and that was another one of my insecurities as the author is I go, how am I gonna that's a powerful voice in someone's head, a powerful belief that they've reinforced their entire life. They're like, dude, I'm not a morning person. How do I know that? Because I hated waking up for 30, 40, 50, whatever. It's like, how am I gonna overcome that? So what's interesting is I surveyed our community once because I was on an interview. Somebody asked me, this is a couple of years ago, they said, what percentage of your community of Miracle Morning practitioners were already morning people before they read the book? So this was easy. They just had a new routine to do in their morning time. And he said, what percentage of them had that limiting belief saying I'm not a morning person? And they had to actually overcome that to do this Miracle Morning. And I didn't know the answer. So I posted it in our, the Miracle Morning community's a Facebook group with 100,000 people in it. So I can get a pretty good sampling, pretty quickly with a question. And 72% of our members said, I was never a morning person in my entire life until I read the book. And so I would share with anybody listening that's kind of going, yeah, this sounds good, but I'm not a morning person. Like, you can join the club. That's most people that are doing the Miracle Morning now. So there's an entire chapter in the book dedicated to, it's called the 5-step snooze-proof wake-up strategy, as you know. And then now it's arguably the shortest chapter in the book. It's like 4 pages. It's arguably it's the linchpin. And I didn't know this, it's all hindsight. But if I had not put that chapter in there, it teaches you how to beat the snooze button and become a morning person, even if you've never been one your entire life. Without that, I think that there'd be hundreds of thousands of people around the world that went, oh yeah, I read the book and I tried it for 2 days, but then I fell back into my old routine. And so I'll give you some of the most important parts of that 5-step strategy. Number one is the night before. So prepping it with a bedtime alarm. So I encourage people to set a bedtime alarm that goes off. So I have like, I don't anymore because it's automatic, but for probably 2 years, I had a couple alarms that went off 1 hour before that said, hey, it was 1 hour, 1 hour till bedtime. That's what the alarm said. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. It's like start winding down. Then 30 minutes, it would go 30 minutes till bedtime. Make sure you're get ready. And then 15 minutes, it would go off again and say, go brush your freaking teeth. It's time to be ready for bed. So that was a big part of it. You've got to commit to that, to commit to going to bed. And at first you might be laying there, it might be tough to go to sleep, but force yourself to wake up. And like you said, that domino effect, if you get up in the morning, you force it, even if you're a little tired, it's going to make you more tired at night, right? So you kind of have to reset your clock, if you will. One of the biggest tips I'll give you, though, is to set the alarm clock across the room as far as possible. Most of us have our alarm clock on our bedside table within arm's reach, and I don't care who you are, myself included. I have no discipline. Those first few moments the alarm goes off, you're still in dreamland. You're half asleep, and you just reach over like mindlessly with your eyes closed, and you just, you tap off your alarm. So when your alarm clock is across the room, like for me, it's in my bathroom, on the sink right next to the toothbrush. When the alarm goes off, if you have to get up out of bed, you are 10 times more awake when you're upright than when you're horizontal laying there. So you get up out of bed to turn the alarm off, and then the next step is, as soon as the alarm's off, now if it's in the bathroom, it's easy. If not, put it in your doorway on the way to the bathroom. So you pick up your phone or your alarm or whatever, you turn it off, and you go straight to the bathroom sink, and you brush your teeth, you wash your face, and what I call your wake-up motivation level, which is how motivated you are to stay awake in the morning. It goes up, let's say, by a point every minute that you stay awake. So just getting out of bed takes you from a level 2 on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's say you're a 1 or a 2 when the alarm goes off and those first few seconds or few moments. If you're at a 1 or a 2, by waking up and having to walk into the bathroom, you go from a 1 or a 2 to like a 4 or a 5. Doesn't mean you're still probably rather go back to bed, but you're now way more awake, and it takes much less discipline or willpower to stay awake. Well, if you brush your teeth, wash your face, you're now at like a 5, 6, or 7. It's getting easier and easier to stay awake. And then the last tip I'll give you is have a glass of water sitting there that says living the dream on it. It doesn't have to say that, but have a glass of water sitting there by the sink. That's what I do. And then as soon as my teeth are brushed, I down it like a college kid at a keg party. Like I just pound the water, and now I'm hydrated. Because think about this. They never taught us this in high school. I don't know why. When you wake up in the morning, you've gone 6, 7, 8, 9 hours without any water. You're dehydrated by default. Think about that. You're dehydrated by default. No one teaches this, but dehydration and fatigue go hand in hand. So the first thing that I do is I down a full glass of water, or as much as I possibly can. And then I go in and then I last tip I'll give you. I said that was the last one. The last one is
bonus tip.
Bonus tip. Get the hell out of your bedroom. Okay? Get the hell out of your bedroom. If you sit there and your bed is within your vision, that's like someone trying to quit smoking and they keep a pack of cigarettes in front of them at all times. Right? That's bad news. It's very tempting to crawl under those covers. So for me, like this morning was a good example. I actually wanted to go back into bed. I didn't feel, some mornings you're more awake, less awake. I wanted to go back to bed, but I knew that moment of decision, I went, all right, I got to go sit on my couch and wake up. So I went into the living room where I had my Miracle Morning, got my book, my journal, everything's out there, sitting out there, and then drinking another glass of water. I made some bulletproof coffee, yada, 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 right? But now I'm awake. And then it's much easier to stay awake. And if you need to, go for a walk or whatever. But that alarm clock across the room, directly into the bathroom to brush your teeth, into drinking a full glass of water. And then if you want to put on your workout clothes, so you're signaling your brain, hey, I'm going to work out at some point in the near future. That's a good thing. And then get the heck out of your bedroom.
And I remember you mentioned in the book too, the workout clothes, that was kind of option A, and option B was if you're still struggling, some of your people will just take a shower there just to snap into it.
Yeah, that's again, because every minute, there's two great things about that. Yeah, if you're really tired, jump in the shower. If you need to be cold, great. Listerine is another bonus tip I gave in the book. I'm like, when you're brushing your teeth, use some Listerine and you're all right. That lights up your whole face. Your senses are alive. But yeah, if you need to, jump in the shower, right? Take your shower right there. And then again, not only is it waking you up because it's refreshing you, But again, every minute that you're awake, your wake up motivation level is just notching up higher and higher and higher.
Yeah, that chapter. You brought it up before I could, but that was the chapter for me, because it's once you kind of have a couple of tips or tricks, I mean, it gets you over that hump. And then once you've kind of programmed your body to be in that sleep pattern, it's really pretty simple from there once you've been doing it a couple of weeks. So
yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. And one other thing I'll share. In fact, this is a resource anybody can get right now. It's in the book, but you can get it before you get the book. If you go to tmmbook.com, so TMM as in the Miracle Morning, tmmbook.com, all the bonuses that are in the book, sample affirmations, journal, all sorts of stuff, you get all of it. But one of the things you get specifically is the bedtime affirmations. And this is about, a couple paragraphs that I wrote. They're my own affirmations that I wrote for me, because I know the power of programming your subconscious before you go to bed, because the last thought you had before bed, think about this, it's usually the first thought you have in the morning. It's that same thought before you went to bed. So as a kid, if I went to bed thinking about Christmas morning, right, and I was excited to wake up, well, then when I opened my eyes in the morning, my first thought was, it's Christmas morning, right? So in the same way, a lot of us go to bed going, oh God, I got to wake up in 6 hours. I'm going to be exhausted, right? And then that's our first thought is, oh, it's the morning. I'm exhausted. That's terrible. That's not how you want to wake up every day. So I wrote an affirmation, and you can start using this, today before you even read the book. But the bedtime affirmations, you read them, and they essentially, I tell myself, you're going to be telling yourself, I'm getting X amount of hours of sleep tonight. No matter how many hours it is, it's the perfect amount, and I'm going to wake up with energy and motivation, yada, yada, yada. And I've had so many people tell me that they read the bedtime affirmations for the first, 30, 60, how many days. And the first day that they didn't read the bedtime affirmations, I've had at least a dozen people tell me this personally. First day they didn't read the bedtime affirmations because they either forgot or they thought they didn't need to or whatever. It was the first day since they started the Miracle Morning that they missed it. They hit the snooze button and slept through the alarm clock. So it's really, really fascinating how that works.
Yeah, it is interesting how that works. So we've had our first surprise guest on the podcast where they've busted into the recording room. So this is fun. You never know. Your kids might run in the back. One of your
kids? I love it. My kids come in, and that's always people's highlight. At first, I get freaked out. I go, no, I'm doing a podcast. And then people always go, that was the greatest part of the podcast when your daughter came in or whatever.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so here, one of the things that I appreciate about your book is it's become a movement. It's not just a book, it's a movement. And it's become a community from there. Or maybe a community and then a movement.
And then a movement, yeah.
Right, but
good catch.
One of the things you did really well throughout the book was these free tools and the downloads. So a lot of our clients, a lot of financial advisors, they've written books, and ideally they would like their book to grow their financial services practice, right? So it's a value proposition to the readers, but ideally, hopefully it attracts future clients to them. So I thought it would be fun to just dig in a little bit there, where there's certain things that you put throughout the book so that people could greater connect with you. I actually checked your Facebook group today. I think you're up to 118,000 members in the Miracle Morning community. So yeah, I think there's a lot we can take from that. So wherever you want to go with that question or that thought process, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and I'll give a free resource that there's not even an opt-in or anything, but I did an interview on this. So if you want to 1 hour meet on my best, like a full interview on book writing and how to write a book that becomes a movement and earns you a fortune, if you Google Hal Elrod Beyond the Bestseller. So I did an interview with Jordan Harbinger on the Art of Charm podcast, and this was the first time ever he's like, hey, you always talk about miracle. Or I had already done Miracle Morning on his show, and he goes, do something. What else can we talk about? And I was like, well, I can give you the best book stuff. And so you can hear an in-depth, or I'll give you a few the most important parts of this some of the strategies. So in terms of answering your question, were there things I put in the book to help influence readers to better connect with me, to take actions that I wanted people to take, etc.? Yes. And I would say that probably 50% of them, give or take, were on purpose, and 50% of them were totally on accident. I look back, go, oh my gosh, that was genius. Thankfully I did that. Or great example, the Miracle Morning community. That was 11th hour. And that's been the biggest part of the movement probably, is this group of 115,000 people. By the way, just to be very clear with everyone, totally organic. I've never paid for any I've never advertised the group at all. Every person that comes in that group is because they've read the book, and then they're invited. It invites them in the beginning and invites them in at the end in case they missed the beginning. But here's the biggest thing. The number one, I believe the number one thing to put into a book, if you want your book to make an impact and increase your income, right? And to me, those are really the two things that my two objectives with a book. And income wasn't an objective when I wrote the book because I didn't think it was going to sell that many copies, believe it or not. So I was really looking for impact. I thought this changed my life, and I felt a sense of responsibility to pay it forward and share the Miracle Morning with people. That's why I wrote the book. Literally, I didn't think it would be a big, bestseller. I didn't know. So I wanted impact, but now because it's one of my biggest sources of income is the Miracle Morning book. And so because of that, now I go, okay, well, now that in hindsight, everyone should write a book to create impact and income. And of course, income is a form of impact. So the number one thing that most books do not do that I believe that you must do if you want your book to really maximize impact and income for you is it needs to change people's behavior. And ideally, it needs to change their daily behavior. Think about this, Brad, and anybody listening. Most books, they don't change your behavior. They just shift your thinking. And they do it most books do it very short term because there's only so much capacity in our brain to, think about information, right? So how many times have you done this, Brad, where you're reading a book and you go, oh my God, this is it's changing you're like, wow, I never thought about that. That's brilliant. It's a huge, right? And you're reading it and you're going, this is great. And maybe you're talking about it to other people. You're going, yo, have you read this? You should read this book. It's great. But here's the problem. Because it's not changing your behavior, or at least, and especially not your daily behavior, as soon as you're done reading that book, you start reading another book. And now that's the book you're talking about because that's the book that's making you think differently, right?
Right.
But if that first book had changed your daily behavior in a way that was meaningful, that was lasting, that was making an impact for you and adding value for you every day, well, you're going to keep talking about it forever, just like Miracle Morning, right? Because you're like, I do this every single day. And so that's it. Most books only change your thinking and it's short-lived. But if you change someone's daily behavior, then now, and in a way that adds value for them, well, they're going to talk about it forever. And I'll give you some examples that you can apply to, so if you're a financial advisor, right? I would have people doing some sort of daily, or it could be weekly, by the way. It doesn't have to be a daily behavior change. It could be weekly. So let's say a weekly change where they are changing their, actually, I just thought of, I'm going to give you a really very concrete example that I've done financially with all of my coaching clients. So this will be good. Remind me if I forget. But and remind me of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. That was where I got the idea for this. So Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, weekly habit change. So that's it. But but if you're a financial advisor, having them do a ritual every day, every week. So I'll go right into what I was going to have you remind me of. We'll just go into it now.
We just cover it now, Hal.
Yeah, just why? Yeah, that's the next logical step anyway. So, so in the book, you ever read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind?
I have not read that one yet, but it's Elker, right? Is the author on that one?
T.R. Becker. Yeah, or no. Yeah, T.R. Becker. Yeah. So Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, I read however many years. Oh, actually, I read it in 2008. That's funny. This was a part of my financial turnaround, actually. I read it in 2008, and he basically said that you should set up 5 bank accounts to start managing your money. This is like it's like reverse budgeting kind of. Instead of setting a budget, you just take a percentage of every dollar when you get paid. You take and the goal was 50% of your income to be moved out of your normal checking account and kind of managed. Mm-hmm. Now at that time, I couldn't 100% of my income wasn't covering my bills. And he addressed that. He goes, now if you're thinking I can't even live off of 100% of my income, let alone 50, he said that's fine. Start with taking whatever you can afford. Take $5 out of every paycheck and put $1 into each of those 5 accounts. Now, those 5 accounts, one is your long-term savings account. So it's your financial freedom account, right? So that'd be what you would invest in retirement. The next one was long-term spending, which is buying things that you need to save for. And most of us, what do? We put it on a credit card, right? Oh, I can't afford that, but I really want it. Oh, I'll put it on a credit card, right? He said, to have discipline, if you want a computer, but you don't have $1,000 or whatever, you put it in that account until you have $1,000 and then you buy the computer. You want a down payment on your house, you put it in that long-term spending account, right? Third account was your play account. It's my favorite account, right? He goes, even if you're broke, you should spend a percentage of your income on things you can't afford. The fourth was your giving account, right? Giving back to charity. And then the last one was your, I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. Go read the book. So after you read The Miracle Morning, in fact, I recommend that book at the end of my book, I think. But so here's the point. My coaching, so I started right away with $1 in each account. I set up the accounts, $1 in each account, right? And then as my income increased, I put $5 in each account. And then I got to percentages. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do 10%. And then, I kept increasing the percentages. Here's the point. I still talk about that book. I can't tell you how many books I've read on money that I never talk about because they got me to think differently about money, but I didn't really do much differently. That is a ritual. Every time to this day, this is like 2005, I read that book, I think, or 6, or I don't know, way back when. Roughly 10 years ago. 10 years later, I still, when I get paid, I put a percentage of every dollar that comes in into those accounts. So that's an example of behavior change that gets me to continue talking about that book and valuing T. Harv Eker as, I've gone to his seminars. I've done, all sorts of stuff.
That's solid. It's funny because a lot of people write about it, but it's more educational as opposed to actually from an implementation standpoint. How do you actually act on this? So I think that's solid.
And here's the thing, to the point of, like you said, with Miracle Morning, and I was able to make things simple. I think if there's anything that I have a gift at or a talent at, I think it's been really taking the complicated and making it simple, right? So taking what could be complex and really simple, not only simplifying it, but putting it into action, something that a 5-year-old could do. Right? So like that 5-step snooze-proof wake-up strategy is so simple. And in the book, you have to, like you said earlier, Brad, when you're like, I'm going to be or I'm going to get into the heads of our listeners and like, okay, what are they thinking? What are their concerns? When you write a book or when you're communicating or selling anything, you've got to anticipate like in every sentence that I write, I'm going, what's the reader going to think, feel, or worry about right when they're reading this sentence and this paragraph, right? And it takes me a long time to write because I really hyperanalyze and think about that. But I go, okay, well, at this part, when I'm telling them, hey, you should give this a try, what are their objections going to be? What are their fears going to be? What are their concerns going to be? And then I go, hey, you might be thinking one of the following. And I list the 5 top concerns, right? And I go, and then I'll address here's how you overcome each one. Here's how you, give them a small win. Pat Flynn always teaches that. Give them a small win right up front. Give them something they can do right up front that they'll feel good about, congratulate them, commend them for it, and they have more confidence to keep moving forward. But that's such an important part is you've got to hold their hand, make it so easy for them to implement it, and then handle their concerns in advance. When I was selling Cutco, I created something with this philosophy that I just explained called the emotional roller coaster close. And I think I just said it one day, like in a presentation and then I was like, ooh, and it worked. But it was the emotional roller coaster close. And I'm trying to remember it now. I haven't sold a Cutco in a long time. But it was something along the lines of right when I presented the price, right, which is that moment when they're going, we're at the moment of, they know I'm about to ask them to buy something, right? And they're like, that tension between everybody, in the situation. I said, so here's how much it costs. Then I'd be quiet for a second. I'd go, now, Mary, I go, I don't know what you're thinking right now. I mean, if you're like most people, though, you're probably thinking, gosh, that's a lot of money for knives. Most people that I see, Mary, that's more money than they've ever spent on knives. And there's always like a fear, which I think is totally normal. So what am I doing right now? So let me pause, everybody. I'm going to explain, right? So I'm saying that, and they're going, wow, they're feeling totally understood. They're totally, they went from resisting they knew I was about to sell them, And that natural resistance was starting to come up. And they're going, okay, he's about to ask for the order. But when I go, now, Betty, most people feel that this is a big purchase. They're actually really nervous to spend money. I don't know if you're thinking that. And they're going, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And now they just think about the emotional shift. They went from resisting to being curious as to where is he going with this, right? Now they're leaning in and they're listening. I go, they're concerned because it's a lot of money for knives. I go, but then what they realize is, most people decide to get the set because that 30-day trial, there's no risk. So I'm reminding them, oh yeah, there's no risk. But I told them that 30 minutes ago in the presentation. They don't that's not top of mind for them. So I'm reminding them, but I'm not doing it in a way where I'm doing it in a salesy way where I'm saying it straight to them like, Betty, you can get this because it's 30 days, right? I'm saying most people are fine with that 30-day no risk, guarantee because there's no risk. And she goes, oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. I go, so they decide to at least try it. There's no risk in trying it, I go, and what they find, Betty, is as soon as they start using it, it's so much better, as you saw today, than what they're used to using, that they wondered how they ever lived without it. And they realize, you know what? I'm going to have this not for a few years, but for the rest of my life. And I go, because of that, they realize it's not a purchase. It really is an investment. I go, so anyway, so I don't know. What are your thoughts? That's how I close. I don't say, do you want to get it, where I pin them in a yes, no. I go, so I just give them, I lay out, I enter their world, and then I ask what their thoughts are. And the beauty of that, and anyone can close anything in this way, right, is that they don't feel the pressure to say yes or no. They feel this space to share their thoughts. And it's in this way where it's non-confrontational. It's what, they'll go, well, I'm not sure if it's interesting. Like the dynamic is so different in the way that they share what would be an objection, but now it's their thoughts, because I didn't ask them if they want to buy. I just said, what are your thoughts? And then they share their thoughts, and then I address, well, it's, I really, it's a lot of money. I go, oh, well, you can do the 5 payments is that easier? And they go, well, yeah, that'd be a little easier. I go, so how does that sound? So it's just, I almost never, until I've got them to where I can tell they're like ready, I've broken through all the major objections, their concerns. I go, so you want to go and do that? No, yeah. So there you go. So that you can, but doing that in a book, right? That emotional role that you're always entering the world of the customer or the reader or the, prospect, et cetera. And then you're emotionally guiding them to feel comfortable to move forward with you.
It's something missing in the vast majority of any sales industry is empathy. Actually getting in the mind of your prospect, and here's what they're actually probably concerned about or thinking. One of the things we coach on a lot is a lot of our financial advisors, they'll have public educational events, seminars, whatever you want to call them. What you're really selling is comfort, right? You're not selling a product.
Sure.
They came into that presentation with concerns, and as you said, you're simplifying the complex. Financial services is a really complex world that a lot of people have anxiety about. Yep. And if you can truly simplify it and bring comfort to them, those are the guys that are the very best at what they do, at least in our world. So
sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so let's go here. And I know we've only got a few minutes left, but man, I've still got tons of questions. So
it's my fault for being super long-winded.
No, you're good. I just let you roll there because that was good stuff. So okay, so let's come back full circle. And in your book, and I know you've had different versions of your book and you've updated it because you self-published it, which is a whole nother tangent we could go down. But you have like little anchors throughout, little tools to where when the 5 tips, I don't have your 5 snooze proof tips to waking up or whatever I'm butchering there.
Yeah.
But you have little tips where, hey, if you like this, here's a free resource, just go here. And now you're capturing names and emails. That becomes your community, your list your email list is incredibly valuable, which then, you've gotten them onto the Facebook community as well. So was there a methodology to here's how I'm going to sprinkle little tools throughout my book to create a higher level of engagement?
Yeah. So in order to get people to, to subscribe to your email list, that sort of thing, the approach that I took is there's roughly 5 different bonuses in the book that people can download. And that's you guys will get them all it's that tmmbook.com site. And they're mentioned So for example, when I'm explaining the power of affirmations, right? And of course, if you're doing a good job, in your book or in your whatever, you're selling them on the value, right? It's like, oh my gosh, these could change my life. I got to do them. And then the bonus is, hey, if you want to, and by the way, this is actually kind of a bonus tip to the bonus, which is I instead of just giving sample affirmations, which I do, I took it a step further and I go, if you want to download my affirmations, my own personal affirmations from this year that I wrote this book and achieved these other goals, I go, by the way, this book, and this is again entering into their world. I go, this book has been on my list for 3 years to write, but fear held me back. If you have any goals on your list that fear has held you back from, check out the affirmations that I use that actually are responsible for me writing this book. So it's like, that's a really cool, I get to actually read the author's personal affirmations. That's cool, right? So that's a cool other thing. And then we get to the part on journaling, right? They can download a sample journal, the affirmations, there's a bedtime affirmation. So there's all these different bonuses in the book. And I kind of joke when I talk on this, like the beyond the bestseller, topic or whatever. I go, if by the 5th bonus, they haven't opted in, either your book sucks or your bonuses suck. Because if 5 bonuses haven't been compelling enough, right? And I mean, I can tell folks that we have over 10,000 people opt in every month from the book, Now, granted, we're selling a lot, we're selling more copies of that a month of the book, so that there correlates, But I can share this. Roughly, it's been years since I checked the stats, but when I did check the stats a couple of years ago, roughly 80% of everyone that read The Miracle Morning opted in for the bonuses. And I looked that up because I was at a publishing conference and a traditional publisher, was asked the question, how many people opt in for bonuses in your readers' books for your authors? And she said, I think the average across the board was like 17%. So when I found out, I'm like, we're getting 80% and the average is 17%. And so the only thing I could attribute that to was that the bonuses were, there were multiple bonuses all in one spot, sprinkled throughout the book. Each were relevant to what they were learning about, so that was the strategy.
Yeah. And it was going back to the ritual, hey, I want to I'm going to try this tomorrow morning. Hey, here's an easy way to do it. I'll just basically plagiarize Hal's affirmations and I'll just use those as my own. That's what I personally did. So hopefully you're cool with that.
That's all. Yeah. I plagiarize, or they call it modeling. I model people all the time.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So I want to hit on something, because not only has your book now been published all over the world, but now there's this documentary that's happening now because of the book as well. So can you give us some teasers on that? I think you're nearing the end of production, aren't you?
Yeah. So we're going to, so I'm excited. It's been a very nerve-wracking. It's been over 2 years that we've been filming the documentary, and it features, I'll just rattle off folks and their morning rituals in the movie. So Lewis Howes, host of School of Greatness podcast, Robert Kiyosaki, author Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robin Sharma, author Leader with No Title, Dr. John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Layla Ali, 18-time world champion boxer and daughter Muhammad Ali, Brendan Burchard. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Like, it's just it's the cast. It blows me away that people, it's kind of like, I got Robert Kiyosaki was the first person I got in the movie because I knew he was a fan. Yeah. And I thought, if I could get Robert and then I can name drop Robert, and then I was able to get another big name and then name drop that, it's like, you just kind of spread. It's really exciting. But the movie, it also follows 3 or 4. It's funny. I haven't even seen it yet. Like I'm supposed to get the first cut this week. But we followed some just, non-celebrity, just ordinary folks, if you will, that had amazing transformations with the Miracle Morning. One, Mike Eaton, he lost 90 pounds after starting the Miracle Morning. Another gentleman, Keith Minnick, he had lost his daughter. His baby daughter had died, and he went into a deep depression. He was the director of business development at CNN. So he's a big, very successful guy. Went into this depression, and everyone recommended all these books on grief and losing a loved one, and nothing worked. Someone recommended Miracle Morning, and it turned his life around. He left his his position to start his own business. I mean, just these really fascinating, really inspiring stories. And then it tells my story of, the whole journey. And, we were halfway through filming the movie and I got cancer. So the last, the final scenes of the movie were totally unplanned. But we're going to debut the Miracle Morning movie at my live event. Once a year, we do an event. This is our 4th annual Best Year Ever Blueprint, coming up in November 17th through 19th. Will this air before that?
It will. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you want to go, everybody listening, go to bestyeareverlive.com. It's a very unique event. It's unlike 99% of events that I've been to, which is you don't just sit there and take notes the whole time. It's extraordinarily experiential, where anything that we teach you how to do, you actually do, you experience, you share, you engage, you interact with the people in the room, and you actually, you do it right then and there. It's really, really cool. But I want
to give you a plug. And our buddy John Berghoff also helps you host that, correct?
John Berghoff he actually runs 80% of it. He's the facilitator. Yeah, he's the genius that does this. And then John Rulin, our other buddy, is going to be speaking at this year's event. As is Joe Polish, who runs the Genius Network. He'll be speaking. We have Entrepreneur Day. The main event is November 18th and 19th, Saturday, Sunday. And then you can upgrade to Entrepreneur Day, which is the Friday before. And we're going to have Joe Polish, David Osborne. You know David Osborne?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, $80 million net worth and New York Times bestseller. So he'll be there. Who else? Joe Polish, Mike Koenigs, Christopher Lochhead, who I don't know if you've interviewed Christopher Lochhead, but he's retired now. He's retired very young, very successful. But so yeah, it's a really special event. And I missed it last year. I had to cancel my flight. I was in the hospital getting chemotherapy, planning on flying from chemotherapy to the event. And I got this crazy infection where my whole face, my eye and my face swole up like the Elephant Man, and I had to cancel the flight. And I ended up streaming in via computer. But yeah, so it's really meaningful. I missed last year my own event, if you will, and I'll be there this year. So knock on wood. Yeah. Well,
John, who has been on an episode before, so we'll put his episode in the show notes here. But
cool.
Actually, the first time we met was the Dad's Retreat run by our other buddy, John Broman. It's like all of your buddies' names.
John will be there. I know, exactly. I'm the only, John Broman, he'll be speaking, author of the Front Row Factor. John Rulin will be speaking. John Berghoff runs the event. Yeah. Any other John?
So, but that was my first experience with the way John Berghoff facilitates a meeting, and it was so powerful. Advisors Excel, our company actually brought him in to facilitate our events. So it speaks to just the power of it's not the typical somebody speaks from stage at you. It's a lot of interaction. So
it's not going home with more pages of notes than you can handle. And then, it's like I always tell people, like, for example, we teach you how to form a mastermind at the event in case you don't have a mastermind. But instead of waiting until you get home and, again, having to search through your notes and be like, wait, what do I need to do? You form it in the room with your like-minded fellow attendees. So when you leave the event, you have a mastermind formed and you've got your first date set. You know what I mean? Like, why go home having to do everything you learned there? Why not do as much of it as you can while you're there?
That's brilliant.
And it's in San Diego in November, which the average weather is like 74 degrees or something. So, and it's at the nicest hotel in San Diego, in my opinion, the Manchester Grand Hyatt, which is on the water. It's gorgeous.
Hey, you had me at San Diego because I live in Kansas. So.
There you go. Yeah. It'll be it'll be a little bit of an upgrade.
All right, we're down to like the last minutes here, but I want to hit one thing because it's been really cool to see you do this. So the Miracle Morning when was it originally published again?
12. Easy to remember.
Okay, so 12. And then once again, just going back to, we just covered how you pulled readers into your community, but then what you did, which was brilliant, was you took your Miracle Morning framework, and then like Cameron Harold, we just had him speak up in Minneapolis at our event. You co-authored with him Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. Yeah, well, there we go. There are the examples. For those tuning in on video, you can see. So basically what you did was you took and applied the Miracle Morning principle, which, by the way, if you want to do Miracle Morning for financial advisors, I know a guy
Yeah, I do. What's funny is I already in the beginning I was meant to say that, and so yeah, we'll have to chat about that.
We'll take that offline. But so the brilliance of it is you applied the framework, but then you niched it, right? You niched it out to each of these little communities. My wife loves your one for families.
Very cool.
Lindsay McCarthy, Mike McCarthy's wife, right? So
yes.
So just give me we don't have time, unfortunately, to get all the way into it, but give me your thought process. Obviously, you're expanding your value to different groups, but you also are taking key thought leaders in each of those communities, and now you're bringing their communities into your community. So just give me like kind of the brainchild, how that all came about and what it's done for you.
Yeah, like most things. So I'm not a master plan kind of guy. You know, people go, is this your plan, your vision? I'm like, dude, I had no idea. Like, it wasn't going to be a book. It was my little morning ritual. Then when I decided to make it a book, I launched it with a lot of insecurity going, is anyone going to read this? And if they do, are they going to change their behavior because I told them to? You know what I mean? But so a lot of it happened organically. Like John Vroman was the one that said, hey, you should open up a Facebook group. It was like, that was the 11th hour thing where the book was like a week from coming, or like, it was like, I sent it to my friends for one final look over. And he goes, do you have any kind of online community plan? Because all these people are going to be up early and none of their family's up, you know, and they need a place to plug into. And so he suggested the Miracle Morning community. I had no idea it would become one of the largest, you know, most engaged online communities. So with the book series, Ryan Snow, did you meet Ryan at the Dad's Retreat?
I did, yeah.
Ryan Snow called me, goes, Hal, ever since I started the Miracle Morning, my sales have dramatically increased, and I attribute it to the Miracle Morning. Have you ever thought of doing like a Miracle Morning for salespeople? Because they really need it, but it could be customized with affirmations for them. And I was like, no, you want to write it with me? You know, and he was like, sure. And that was the birth of the Miracle Morning book series. And then I was talking to some of the top real estate trainers in the country, Michael Mayer, who wrote the book 7 Levels of Communication, and then Jay Kinder and Michael Reese. I was talking to one of them, and he goes, Hal, I read the book to my son every night. He's only 2 years old. He can't understand it, but I believe that the intentions behind your words are so powerful. I want it going into his soul. I was like, holy cow. And he goes, have you thought of doing a book for real estate agents? I was like, well, no, but we're going to do one for salespeople. And then that was it, you know, and then it just kind of expanded. And then one of my coaches were like, are you charging people to co-author a book in your series? And I was like, no, who am I to charge people to co-author, you know? And, you know, everything was kind of small. And then he goes, you should charge at least $10,000. And now it's $20,000. And, you know, we're thinking about raising it again because of the value proposition is really great now with people's, how much money they're making and all of that, you know, our co-authors, I mean. So, that's it. And we kind of slowed down. We were up to like 3 books a year for the last couple of years. And then we want to pull back a little, you know, quality over quantity. So the next 2 books, I can tell you, we did sign the next 2 books. One, I'm co-authoring with Joe Polish, founder of Genius Network, and a couple different nonprofits. He's big on helping addicts and changing the way addicts are viewed. Instead of being viewed as like degenerates, being viewed as kind of, you know, people with a disease and they need help and support and love. So we're writing the Miracle Morning for Addiction and Recovery. And then David Osborne and I are writing Miracle Morning Millionaires. And that one I'm really excited about. That was actually the first idea that I ever had, or one of the first ideas I had for a book. It's not Miracle Morning for Millionaires because that's a limited group. It's Miracle Morning Millionaires. And the subtitle is What They Do Before 8 a.m. That Will Make You Rich. So we're interviewing, we'll probably do, you know, roughly 24 millionaires and find out what are their morning rituals, but B, what are the biggest keys to their financial success? And then that's what the book becomes. And every book is very different. That was the biggest challenge too, is we'll go, how do you make them, it took a lot of time to work through, how do we make it enough of the original so that if someone hasn't read the original, they can start doing the Miracle Morning, but how do we make it enough new where if they have read the original, they don't feel like it's a repeat? And so I can just real quickly, the format is basically the first 3 to 4 chapters of every book sums up the entire original book, but it's customized for, you know, financial advisors, realtors, whatever. And then the next 6 to 7 chapters are completely fresh content about the niche. So meaning the real estate book or the salesperson book, it's 7 chapters, 6 chapters on how to sell. So like what I explained earlier, the emotional roller coaster stuff, that's the content in the book. So anyone that reads it, the first 4 chapters are a refresher that's customized for them, but then the next 6 chapters have zero to do with the original book. So it's been the perfect blend. And the average reviews across all of the books in the Miracle Morning book series are 4.9 out of 5 stars on Amazon. The Miracle Morning book itself is 4.6 out of 5 stars. So the book series books actually on average have a higher rating. So, so it's good because, again, getting over my fear of like, I don't want this to be all of a sudden the books come out and they're just cheap ripoffs of the original, Yeah. So luckily it's the formula we figured out has worked out really well.
When was your first one with Ryan? What you remember off the top of your head?
No, 2013 probably. I would say between probably roughly a year or so off after the original, but I'm not sure.
I was just curious if you could go back and see how much bigger your Facebook community has grown since you kind of syndicated the book to all these different communities. Did you see a massive spike in your Facebook membership?
It definitely helps because every one of the books, it still has the bonuses. It still has the Facebook group invite. But the Miracle Morning, the original book, still sells more copies than all the other books combined.
Wow.
So yeah, so no matter what, that's still the number one source of opt-ins of Facebook community group, all of that.
Awesome. Well, we are right at the end. Do you have time for like 2 or 3 questions and run?
Yeah, hit me up.
Okay. All right.
If my stomach's growling though, that's
I don't want to keep you from lunch or dinner, wherever we're at now. So obviously being an author of a book, I have to ask you this. What is your favorite book that made the biggest impact on your life? Is there one that you could pick out of all that you've read?
That's a loaded question, right? Well, I'll tell you the first one that comes to mind, and sometimes I'll kind of be reserved to share, like, this isn't the one I would share if I was thinking about it, so I'll just give you the intuitive answer, which is a book called Conversations with God. I read that probably 15 years ago, and one of the reasons I hesitate to share it because A, God is a very loaded topic, right? But B, I read it 15 years ago, and so I don't know if I would still say it was the best book ever. I think I read it again like 2 years after that or something. But anyway, it's one of my favorite books of all time. And then I'll just give you one of the best business books I've ever read is by M.J. DeMarco. It's called The Millionaire Fast Lane. And what's interesting about that book is that didn't change behavior necessarily, but it did. Well, I take that back. It did in a big picture. It got me to really think about how I orchestrated everything in my business to revolve around my life. So that that was the big game changer for me. So yeah, Millionaire Fastlane is a fantastic book.
Awesome. When you hear the word successful, who's the first person you think of and why?
That's a good question. This sounds really totally arrogant and egotistical, but I would say me. and I don't mean that in an arrogant or egotistical way, but I think that for me, I strive to live my life completely in alignment with my values. And I think I do I feel like I do a really good job of that, so I feel like integrity and love and authenticity, like those are really what I revolve everything around. And I mean, you like you said it in the beginning, that that you've asked my friends or whatever, like, is how really this positive, like, yeah, I never put on a front, you know what I mean? Yeah. And because, and also at this point from a monetary perspective or what, how most people measure success, I've gotten my life at a place where I have freedom to I'm doing work that I love and earning an income to support my family. And I'm able to give back more money back to charity than I've ever given in my life. So yeah, so I mean, it's like I'm, like I said, I don't mean, I hate even saying that. I feel like an ass, but I'm doing, when I like this cup that says live in the dream that I drink from every day, like this is not, I look at that and I feel so humbled and grateful in that I'm living the life that I dreamt of for so long. And it took a long ass time to get here. You know what I mean? Like, I really believe that, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. That, people look, wow, you came out of nowhere. And it's like, no. I worked my butt off for so long and struggled for so long, not just me, I'm saying for anyone that's successful, most people had to go through it before they got to it. You know what I mean? So.
Well, no, I'm going to brag on you a little bit.
Don't quote you. Don't put that in writing. I don't. That looks without hearing my tone. That sounds
you're good.
terrible.
We'll give it context, man.
Okay.
And I want to brag on you a little bit because John Vroman is a mutual friend, and his charity, the Front Row Foundation, and we'll put details in the show notes. But he's created a very cool organization, and I know from him saying like you're the largest donor in the history of the Front Row Foundation. So it's really cool to see someone like you that's gone through some struggles. I mean, recently a battle with cancer, but still giving back and helping other people that, well, have been in your situation, I guess, as of now, other cancer survivors or people that are battling really tough situations. So
yeah. No, thank you for that. And when I just started a nonprofit that I just filed a 501c3, so it'll probably be like 6 months before it's official, but called Support the Unsupported, because I realized during my journey that I'm blessed with family and friends and a community that was really supporting me mentally, emotionally, whatever resources I needed. Our other friend, John Rulin, at an event raised $100,000 to help pay my medical bills.
I was there.
Mastermind Talks. And Jason Gaynard obviously was a big part of that too. But what it made me realize, I was very humbled and grateful by the support. And then I realized talking to other people in the hospital that like, wow, most people don't have this kind of support, And so I started a charity, and I haven't decided exactly what it's going to do. I just know that I want to offer support, whether it's resources, finances, whatever, to people that are suffering, that don't have the access to the support that, that they need. And so, so I'm excited for that.
That's cool. Let me know once it's live, man. Love to support it.
Absolutely.
All right. Last question here. Hal, and before I get to it, I just want to say thank you. You've already inspired me through your writing. Getting to know you in person has been cool. It's not like we're best friends and text each other on the weekends or anything, but I just want to say thank you because
not yet. No, I'm sorry, Brad. Yeah, no, keep going.
But yeah, I just love genuine people. That's just the bottom line. And you are as advertised, and it's cool to see your writings impact people. They've impacted me, but even more recently, what truly hit home with me was how you carried yourself this last year of your life. That's modeling what you're all about, and going back to your kids, like, congratulations, because that's being a hell of a father. That's teaching them some life lessons. So I just want to say thank you for carving out the time. And this has been an incredible conversation.
You are welcome. And the feelings are mutual, my friend. Yeah. And maybe we'll be doing this again to announce the Miracle Morning for financial advisors in the next year.
I'm open to that. Okay. So I'll hit you with the last question here.
Okay.
Been very successful. If there was just one piece of advice that you could share with, obviously knowing our audience as financial advisors, but just the audience in general that's led to that success, what would it be?
Do the right thing, not the easy thing. Do the right thing, not the easy thing is a mantra, a philosophy that, it's extraordinarily simple, but I learned that when I was 19 from one of my mentors when I started in sales. And to this day, like, that is the voice in my head that gets me to do the thing. And it both applies to like doing the thing that will move me toward my goals, but also doing the thing that is in integrity, right? So there's both a moral that both helps to navigate my moral compass and to navigate my productivity compass, right? But literally, it's what, when the alarm goes off in the morning, if I go, I don't want to get up, I go, like, do the right thing, not the easy thing. That it's so ingrained in me. I've said it, thousands and thousands of times to myself. I used to say it in sales when I would think about getting on the phone, right? Because that's it. It's the moment of decision. Every moment, should I go to the gym or should I stay home? Should I stay up late or watch one more Netflix show, or should I go to bed so I can get up early? Should I fudge these numbers a little bit, nobody will really know or care, right? Or should I do the right thing and live with integrity? And integrity to me, by the way, and this is where integrity and productivity are marry each other. Integrity is doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, no matter what, without excuses, without exceptions. And so that's the key to productivity. And that's where do the right thing, not the easy thing is like, I wrote in my schedule that I was going to make 20 calls today. I don't feel like it right now, but who gives a shit what I feel like? I said I was going to do it. I have to do the right thing, which is what I committed to, not the easy thing, which is what I feel like, very often. Mm-hmm. And so that's it. I mean, if you do the right thing, not the easy thing, and you use common sense, and you stay patient and hungry and you keep moving forward, your success is inevitable. Might take you 10 years to be that overnight success, but if you do the right thing, not the easy thing, and keep moving the direction of worthwhile predetermined goals, I don't think you can fail.
Mm. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I now have a new morning mantra that is going to keep me from hitting the snooze button. So
there you go.
That. Well, Hal, thanks, man. This has been an awesome conversation. So until the next time our paths cross, man, it's been fun.
My pleasure, Brad. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Elite Advisor Blueprint. For access to show notes, transcripts, and exclusive content from our show's guests, visit bradleyjohnson.com. And before you go, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're liking the podcast, you can help support the show by leaving your rating and review on iTunes. Not only do we read every single comment, but this will help the show rank and get discovered by new listeners. It really does help. Thanks again for joining, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode.
The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties and have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Advisors Excel. The guest speaker is not affiliated with or sponsored by Advisors Excel for financial professional use only, not to be used with the general public or in a sales situation.